What we just witnessed at UFC 316 wasn't just a title defense, it was a collision course between destiny and doubt. Merab Dvalishvili walked into the T-Mobile Arena carrying the weight of his undefeated record, his Georgian pride, and the unrelenting pressure of being the man to beat in the UFC's most volatile division. Across from him stood Shaum Ali, the Dagestani phenom who has stormed his way into title contention like a silent storm, quiet outside the cage, but a violent poet within it. This wasn't just a fight, it was a geopolitical clash, a stylistic paradox, a 25-minute war that forced us to redefine what greatness looks like at 135 pounds. Dvalishvili versus Ali was built on questions. Can Merab maintain his suffocating pace against someone who won't be bullied? Can Shaum's stoic pressure and precise fundamentals break the will of a man who's never known how to take a backward step? After 5 rounds, we have answers. But like all great fights, those answers only lead to more questions. Let's break down what really happened in the main event of UFC 316 and what it means for the future of the bantamweight division. From the very first exchange, it was clear this wasn't going to be a tactical chess match fought at a distance. Dvalishvili, known for his hellacious pressure, charged forward like a man possessed. His striking has always been an extension of his cardio, a tool to close the distance, to force the scramble, to make opponents panic. And he did just that in the opening minute. Pushing Ali toward the cage, he unloaded looping shots, mixing in level changes and threatening the takedown early. But Shaum didn't flinch. He didn't react like past Dvalishvili opponents. His back touched the fence, sure, but his eyes remained calm. He blocked, he rolled, he reset. Then, like a sniper picking his shot, Ali landed a sharp left hook that made Dvalishvili pause. It wasn't a knockdown shot, but it was a message, a reminder. You pressure me, you pay. Dvalishvili kept coming, because that's who he is. But already, the fight was deviating from the usual script. This wasn't the one-way traffic we've seen in Merab's past fights. He was meeting resistance, quiet, steady, and patient. And it was working. Merab pressuring, Shaum circling, landing the cleaner shots. But this time, something changed. Dvalishvili went deeper into the gas tank. He chained takedowns together, shooting, re-shooting, grabbing singles, switching to doubles, trying everything to get Ali to the mat. For a moment, it worked. He got Ali down. The crowd roared. But before he could secure position, Shaum posted and bounced back up like it was a warm-up drill. That's when the psychological warfare began. Dvalishvili was doing everything right, but it wasn't enough, and you could see it on his face. Not panic. Not yet, but frustration. And in MMA, frustration is a virus. It spreads quickly. Merab's shots became more wild, his movement more desperate. Ali, meanwhile, started to find his rhythm. That left hook was landing again. The front kick to the body was chipping away at Merab's relentless forward movement. The tide was turning. Merab came out breathing heavier, still pressuring. But now, his entries were slower. His transitions were less crisp. And that's when Shaum turned up the volume, not by throwing more, but by making every shot count. The jab, the hook, the uppercut as Dvalishvili changed levels. Ali was operating like a machine, reading Merab's rhythms and punishing the patterns. A well-timed knee caught Merab on a takedown entry and caused visible damage. His nose began to bleed, his forward motion slowed. But even then, he didn't stop. That's the thing about Merab Dvalishvili. You can beat his body, but breaking his spirit is another story. Even when it looked like Ali was in control, Merab found a way to make it ugly, to clinch, to throw elbows in tight, to grind his forehead into Ali's face. He's not just a cardio machine, he's a man who thrives in discomfort. But for the first time in his career, he wasn't the one dictating where the discomfort happened. Shaum Ali was dragging him into a fight on his terms. If there was any doubt that Ali was more than just a grinder, round 4 erased it. This was his masterpiece. He wasn't just reacting to Dvalishvili, he was leading him into traps. Feinting the takedown to draw out the sprawl, slipping to the outside and landing body shots that made Merab wince. He even sprawled on one of Dvalishvili's shots and transitioned into back control, threatening the choke before Merab scrambled out. It was a complete performance, intelligent, measured violence. The kind of round that shows you exactly why Dagestan has become a breeding ground for elite fighters. Schaum's control wasn't built on brute strength, it was geometry, angles, timing, patience, and all of it was eroding the resolve of a man who had previously seemed unbreakable. By the time round 5 started, the commentary booth was buzzing. One side calling it 3-1 Ali, another saying it was still 2-2. The crowd didn't know how to feel. On paper, Schaum was landing more, but Merab, he was still moving forward, still swinging, still fighting like a man who believed he could snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, and that's what made the final 5 minutes unforgettable. Ali stayed composed, but Merab dug deeper than ever before. He landed 2 of his best strikes of the fight, an overhand right and a spinning back fist that stunned Ali briefly. It wasn't enough to steal the round, but it was enough to remind everyone who he is. They went to the horn standing. No knockouts, no submissions. But both men wore the scars of war, and when the decision was read, it was unanimous. Schaum Ali is the new UFC bantamweight champion, but the story didn't end with the decision. What happened after the fight might be even more important than the fight itself. As Bruce Buffer announced the winner, Diwali didn't storm off. He didn't cry foul. He clapped, he nodded, he raised Ali's hand. That's respect. That's martial arts. But when the cameras zoomed in, you could see something else in Morab's eyes. Not anger, not sadness, just an emptiness. The realization that for the first time in his UFC career, he had been outclassed, not outfought, not out-toughed, but outmaneuvered, outthought, and for a fighter like Morab, that kind of loss cuts the deepest. As for Ali, his celebration was quiet, measured, almost eerie in its calm. No wild posturing, no screaming, just a short prayer and a hug with his team. A man who expected to be here, who knew this day would come, who now must deal with what comes next. So what does this mean for the 135-pound division? First, it creates clarity. We now have a champion who has shown he can beat the best version of Morab Diwali, a man many thought would hold this belt for years. Ali didn't just survive, he neutralized, he controlled, he turned chaos into order. And that means the rest of the division is officially on notice. Guys like Sean O'Malley, who rely on distance and precision, they'll have to deal with Ali's unshakable pressure. Grapplers like Umar Nurmagomedov. That could be a stylistic chess match from hell. And what about a returning Henry Cejudo? That fight now looks completely different. As for Merab, this isn't the end. Far from it. He's still a nightmare. Matchup for most of the top 10. He'll rebuild, he'll come back, but this loss changes him. He's no longer the unbeaten tank. Now, he's the man who must evolve. Schaum Ali's win is more than a personal triumph. It's a cultural moment. For Dagestan, it's another notch in the belt of combat sports dominance. For the UFC, it's a new kind of star. Not flashy, not loud, but terrifyingly efficient. A man who doesn't need theatrics to captivate an audience. His fights speak for him. And the fans? They're listening now. And let's not ignore the geopolitical undertone. Georgia versus Dagestan. 2 nations, 2 fighting cultures, 2 interpretations of combat grit. Ali didn't just win a belt, he won a symbolic battle, and that narrative will follow him into every title defense. UFC 316 didn't give us a viral knockout or a controversial decision. It gave us something better, a real fight between 2 elite athletes, 2 contrasting styles, and a passing of the torch that didn't feel forced, it felt earned. Schaum Ali didn't expose Morab Diwali. He elevated him, forced him to dig deep, forced him to evolve, and that's the beauty of MMA at its highest level. Iron sharpens iron. Losses reveal character, and titles, though shiny, are just markers on a much longer road. So what's next? Maybe a rematch, maybe a new challenger, maybe a super fight. But whatever happens next, one thing is clear: Schaum Ali has arrived, and the bantamweight division will never be the same again.